Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Cheryl and Luke Coe. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Cheryl Howell Coe was born on April 17, 1970, and lived in Newnan, Georgia. This is 39 miles southwest of Atlanta. To make a living, Cheryl worked at a hospital in a management position. In July 2015, she met a man named Luther Coe, who went by the name Luke. He was divorced and had a son named Levi. In September 2016, Cheryl and Luke married. In 2019, they moved into a house at 3410 Tommy Lee Cook Road. Luke operated a business from his home called Platinum Demolition and Grading. Cheryl continued to work at the hospital. According to Cheryl, starting that same year, Luke pressured her into BDSM-style sex. She did not enjoy this activity, but she agreed to make him happy. In 2020, Cheryl made adjustments to her hormones. Presumably, she meant by taking medication that was prescribed to her, which resulted in Luke being unable to keep up with her. It sounds like Cheryl was saying that her sex drive increased dramatically. In order to satisfy her intense needs, Luke recommended they switch to an open marriage. They each had sex with various partners and hosted swinger parties at their house. Cheryl referred to her swinging activity as the lifestyle and said, "In the lifestyle, the women are in charge." In the middle of June 2021, the couple had a disagreement about their open marriage. In a text message exchange, Cheryl requested permission to see another man later in the week. Luke asked if Cheryl was planning on seeing a second man that same day. Cheryl indicated that she could do the same day, ending her message with LOL. After being with these two men, Cheryl would have sex with Luke. This was not appealing to Luke. He indicated this behavior turned his stomach. Cheryl suggested that they terminate the open marriage arrangement and go back to a traditional design. It would just be the two of them again. Luke disagreed, so the couple continued the open marriage, although they did create more rules for each other to follow. In later exchanges, Cheryl accused Luke of telling a friend about their disagreements regarding the open marriage. She asked for screenshots of the text messages with the friend, but Luke refused. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On June 23, 2021, at 7:26 p.m., 51-year-old Cheryl Coe called 911. She told the operator that her husband had been shot and her gun went off by itself. When the police arrived at the Coe family house, Cheryl could be heard yelling from the master bedroom. In the bedroom, officers saw Luke Coe face down on the floor. He was not wearing any clothing and was bleeding from a gunshot wound to his chest. Luke said, "I can't breathe." He stopped breathing shortly after this and was pronounced dead at the scene. Luke Coe was 48 years old. The police removed Cheryl from the house. She was crying, screaming, shaking, and carrying on. At one point, she dropped down on the front yard and made various noises consistent with anguish and poor acting. Eventually, the police moved her to the front porch, where she was interviewed multiple times. Here's what she said happened that day. Following the disagreement about the open marriage, Cheryl had not spoken to Luke since the previous morning. At about 3 p.m. on the day of the shooting, Luke texted Cheryl indicating he was ready to talk about the disagreement. She responded that they could talk about it when she arrived home from work. At about 5:30 p.m., she pulled up to the house. Cheryl knew that Luke was on the property because she could hear music coming from their detached garage. Luke's son Levi was also there. Cheryl made her way to the back porch of the house to wait for Luke. As she was waiting, she drank 4 or 5 Angry Orchard hard ciders. At about 6:15 p.m., Levi left the property, so now there were only 2 people there, Cheryl and Luke. Even though they were supposed to talk about the disagreement, Luke never arrived on the porch. Cheryl had to get up early for work the next day, so decided it was time for bed. She took Klonopin, which she said suppressed racing thoughts so she could sleep, and Phenergan for migraine headaches. Sometime between 6:30 and 7 p.m., Cheryl went to bed, not wearing any clothing. Not long after this, she woke up to the sound of yelling. She looked up and saw the door of the bedroom swing open. Cheryl was unable to identify the person making entry and became frightened. She reached over to her nightstand and retrieved a Smith & Wesson 9mm pistol. She fired one shot at the ceiling and a second shot behind her television. She was hoping to attract Luke's attention in the detached garage so he could deal with the intruder. Cheryl did not realize that she shot Luke until he said, "Cheryl, you shot me." The statements provided by Cheryl made the shooting seem like it could have been an accident. Later that same day, Cheryl was interviewed again, this time at a police station. She mentioned how she went to bed at 7:15 p.m., which was different than her initial story of 6:30 to 7 p.m. The police confronted Cheryl about the short amount of time between going to bed and calling for help. She called 911 at 7:26 p.m., meaning she was only in bed for 11 minutes total. At this point, Cheryl modified her story. She stated that she always knew it was Luke who entered the master bedroom. He woke her up with his thunderous footsteps and yelling prior to swinging the door open. Luke told her to get her blank out of bed, then dragged her out of the bed. When he briefly left the room to go to the kitchen, Cheryl retrieved the pistol and fired a warning shot. This made Luke angry and aggressive. She fired a second shot to scare him off. Her target was the wall behind the television. Cheryl declared, "I was not trying to hit him." On the next day, June 24, 2021, Cheryl Coe was arrested and charged with malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault. Her trial started in February 2025. In March of that year, the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict, and a mistrial was declared. Cheryl's second trial started on August 11, 2025. During her testimony, Cheryl explained that she did not reveal all the details about the shooting initially because she wanted to protect Luke's reputation. She also admitted to lying under oath during her first trial. During her testimony, Cheryl explained that she did not reveal all the details about the shooting because she wanted to protect Luke's reputation. She also admitted to lying under oath during her first trial. That was the trial that ended in a mistrial. On August 18, 2025, Cheryl Coe was found guilty of malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault. Her sentence was life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now moving to my analysis. Cheryl Coe maintains her innocence, although she does not appear to have any supporters. If she did have any supporters, they might argue that Cheryl acted in self-defense. Luke was an angry and jealous man who put her in fear for her safety when he allegedly dragged her from the bed in the master bedroom. The state of Georgia, of course, disagrees. They argued that Cheryl changed her story several times, which is consistent with her trying to conceal criminal activity. This brings me to the question, is Cheryl Coe guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence, both for and against the idea that she is guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. There is no question that Cheryl shot her husband Luke to death in the master bedroom of their home. Luke was unarmed and not wearing any clothing. There did not appear to be any injuries on Cheryl's body. Cheryl had a lot of trouble telling the truth. When she was first interviewed, she claimed that she did not know the identity of the person who entered her master bedroom when she fired her weapon. Later, she admitted that she knew the entire time it was her husband Luke. Cheryl admitted that she lied under oath during her first trial. The medical examiner indicated that there was stippling in the bullet wound on Luke's chest. When Cheryl discharged the pistol, it was within 6 inches of Luke's body. In every version of Cheryl's story, she was farther away than 6 inches. Cheryl claimed that she did not shoot her husband intentionally. The first shot was a warning shot, and the second one was meant to be a warning shot as well. But this bullet fatally struck Luke. So Cheryl would have people believe that she did not intend to shoot her husband, yet, out of all the places the second bullet could have traveled, it just happened to strike Luke in the chest. Moving to the exculpatory factors, Cheryl called 911 right after the shooting. Her husband was still breathing when first responders arrived. If she wanted to kill him, why didn't she wait until he was dead before calling for help? It is very unlikely that anyone heard Cheryl fire the pistol. The house was in a rural area surrounded by trees. The closest house was over 350 feet away. If Cheryl committed murder, why didn't she take a few minutes to stage the scene and make her self-defense claim more believable? She could have put a knife from the kitchen in Luke's hand. If another gun was available, she could have put that in his hand. She could have injured herself to make it look like Luke attacked her. Instead, she immediately called 911. Cheryl indicated that Luke poured water on her before yanking her out of bed. The police noted that there was water on the floor of the master bedroom when they arrived. Investigators pointed out that there were only 11 minutes between the time that Cheryl went to bed and when she called 911. However, she may have gone to bed earlier than 7:15 p.m. At 6:39 p.m., she sent a text message to a friend saying she was going to bed. This is consistent with her original story, where she went to bed between 6:30 and 7 p.m. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I believe that Cheryl Coe is guilty? Yes, I believe she is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. For some reason, Cheryl developed an extremely strong sex drive. To meet her desire, she decided to become a swinger. She claimed this was Luke's idea, and it may have been. If it was, Cheryl agreed with it. She wanted to be in an open marriage. Finding men to have sex with was very easy for Cheryl. The open marriage was working out fine in that regard. She was getting all the sex she could handle. Luke had a lot more difficulty finding women to have sex with him, but he did have some degree of success. He was satisfied with the sex he was obtaining, but jealous over Cheryl's numerous encounters. This wasn't the only jealousy present in the marriage. Cheryl was jealous as well. Just like Luke, she was satisfied with the sex, but wasn't happy with her spouse having sex with other people. Cheryl wanted the open marriage arrangement to end. She was not interested in having any more play dates, as the couple called them. It's possible that Cheryl arranged to see two lovers in the same day, not only to satisfy her nearly insatiable sex drive, but to make Luke jealous. She was trying to get him to abandon the idea of the open marriage. The problem was, Luke wasn't ready to let it go. On the day of the shooting, Cheryl and Luke were in the master bedroom because they were planning on having sex with each other. This is why they were not wearing any clothing. Also, the police reported finding lubricant and 2 sex toys on the bed. During the encounter, the couple started to argue, perhaps due to feelings of jealousy. Luke may have provoked Cheryl by throwing water on her. Cheryl was intoxicated, which amplified her impulsivity. She retrieved her pistol, fired a shot into the ceiling, then pointed the weapon at Luke and fired for a second time. After the shooting, Cheryl wanted to escape responsibility for the murder. Not knowing which story to use, she ended up going with all the stories. The gun went off by accident, she believed her husband was an intruder, and her husband attacked her. Her final story built on the self-defense angle by asserting that Luke was a monster who had victimized her for years. He was becoming increasingly violent. This may or may not have been true, but it's curious that the allegations only surfaced when legally advantageous. Either way, nobody was going to believe anything Cheryl had to say due to her repeated deceptive behavior. One thing I find interesting about this case is how the evidence against Cheryl was not overwhelming. The first jury really struggled with the case. They could not agree on a verdict. Cheryl could have mounted an effective defense strategy based on imperfect self-defense. That is, she unreasonably but sincerely believed that she was in danger. She was wrong, but not malicious. Maybe she would have been convicted of manslaughter instead of malice murder. The problem that Cheryl ran into was her own deceptiveness. Her lies destroyed every available defense. A jury might accept an imperfect story, but they will almost always reject multiple incompatible stories. Those are my thoughts on the case of Cheryl and Luke Coe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.